The Minister's decision to close Warramai has been met with overwhelming opposition from staff and community groups.
I think it's important to communicate to the government that in fact, even though they think this is a finalised decision, that from the point of view of the people in the Hunter Valley it is not a finalised decision and they have a responsibility to reverse it.
Protesters were up in arms the state government isn't exploring the option of relocating the facility in the Hunter as previously promised.
There's been no consultation with the community, with the workers and with the range of interests that are very concerned about the future of juvenile justice in the Hunter Valley. They've not talked to anyone other than their own economic people.
Even the Police Association has weighed into the argument, opposing the transfer of juvenile offenders to the Central Coast.
It's taking the police off the street. The government's been very open in saying we want more police on the street, we want a visible police presence. All this is going to do is take police off the street, transporting juveniles to Gosford.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News. In most car crashes involving young people, inexperience played a major part. But while you might not be able to put an old head on young shoulders, you can teach them what it takes to become a safe and skillful driver.
We're simulating real emergencies on the road so that when it happens on the road, the unexpected becomes expected.
The two-day Rotary-sponsored course involved putting 12 young people and their cars through their paces in a controlled environment, the Cessnock Airport.
I felt that there are a great deal of problems with people under 25 and above 18 on the roads these days, and I didn't want to become another statistic.
I just wanted to take part in it, get some more experience, know how to do more stuff, know how to brake properly.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Central Coast waves are not new to the circuit, and their experience almost proved that last night, coming close to toppling local rivals Coastal Power. But the Power team still managed to teach the old side some new tricks and run away with a 13-point victory in the men's game. Although the newly formed Coastal Power side now boasts 2 international imports, only one took to the court last night, lending a big hand in scoring the team's 121 points. But the Waves offered some solid resistance. Playing at their home ground, they managed to clock up 108 points of their own. And in the women's clash, Coastal Power surged through again, taking the game 98-82, with Teresa Cohen top scoring for Power with 27 points and Michelle Byrne from the Waves shooting a huge 32 points.
Spectators clung to vantage points on the side of Mount Sugarloaf as riders negotiated the sharp turns, switchbacks and drop-offs of the 2.5 kilometre course.
You've got to be thinking ahead on the track because one corner, if you take that a little bit out of shape, you're really out of shape for the next corner.
Leading Australian rider Andrew Mills found no problems with the layout, nor did women's hotshots Emma McNaughton and Tylee Muxlow. The fastest riders finished the course in around 4 minutes, reaching speeds of up to 50 kilometres an hour on bikes that cost anything up to $12,000.
In 4 trips west, Newcastle had never left without the points, but statistics also caught up with Todd McManus. His 4th yellow card now means an automatic 1-week suspension. Ex-breaker Troy Halpin caught up with old teammates, while Bob Catlin wasn't on good terms with the Glory strikers, denying the home side's early attacks. At the other end, Andy Harper placed the perfect cross for John Bonavolia's 16th goal of the season. Glenn Sprott found out the hard way Bob Catlin was letting no one get in his way. With the parochial Perth crowd in his ear, the big glove man was right on song, keeping things 1-0 at the break. Things were getting desperate for the home side, but it was the breakers, Glenn Sprott, who made the referee's bad book. Harper wasn't happy when he was filled within range of the target. His mood didn't improve when the Glory got on the board after a goalmouth scramble. But there was one way to get a smile back on his face, scoring the match winner, and after setting Bonavolia up in the first half, the favour was returned in kind. A 1-goal lead was almost doubled, but it was desperate defence that ensured the 3 points came home to Newcastle, pushing the Breakers into 4th spot.
We do get out and we talk to communities, we get out and talk to business, and we get out and talk to local government and hear what people have got to say on the ground.
After serving for more than a decade as a magistrate on the Children's Court bench and pioneering free legal aid for children, Barbara Holbrook is used to speaking out on certain issues, including education.
It is important because if you didn't have this program, these kids would ultimately end up probably in a children's court.
The 70-year-old is in Newcastle to support the unique Dynamic Alternative Learning Education program, or DALE as it's known, designed for students who don't fit into mainstream education.
These are the kids that the education system just doesn't catch. They fall through the cracks. There's no safety net there, and that's what DALE's doing. They're catching them.
In its 3rd year in rented accommodation at Waratah, the Dale Centre is looking for a more permanent home in order to expand, and to do that it needs help. Ms Holbrook hopes to rally support at the Workers' Club tonight during her keynote speaker's address.
Firstly, financially, but then in many, many ways people can volunteer, and to do that they should ring up and find out what type of volunteers and what their expertise are and how they could help themselves.
Police discovered the decomposed body of John Frederick Lund in his Muswellbrook home on the 15th of December 1998. Just 48 hours later, a man told police the killer was his Fennell Bay flatmate, 21-year-old Andrew McGrath. In Newcastle Supreme Court today, McGrath's parents looked on as their son pleaded guilty to the murder and heard a taped conversation recorded from listening devices between him and his flatmate 3 days later. During the conversation, Mr McGrath admitted to putting a cloth over Mr Lund's mouth and suffocating him. He said in that time Mr Lund put up a bit of a struggle, but in his words he had no hope in hell. Mr McGrath's flatmate also told police the 21-year-old was drinking with Mr Lund, known to them both, when he struck the man, and that after the murder I wiped over everything that I thought I might have touched. The Crown Prosecutor's evidence detailed the motive outlined by Mr McGrath's flatmate, who claims he told him he murdered Lund because he was being investigated for the sexual assault of a young girl. But when Mr McGrath was interviewed by police, he described the murder as a mercy killing, saying the doctor had given him only 6 weeks to live. The trial continues tomorrow. Helen Kapelos, NBN News.
At this time of the week for about the last month, the Knights have named a side that has usually been wrecked by game day due to injury and late withdrawals, but now resigned to the fact they'll be without Andrew Johns for at least a few weeks and fullback Robbie O'Davis for much longer. The team has few problems to worry about other than working out new combinations.
We actually did some ball work yesterday, which is quite amazing. We actually put a team out there and did some ball work.
Adam McDougall covers for Robbie O'Davis at fullback, while Darren Albert makes his awaited return on the wing after a broken thumb, with Danny Medeiros to play halfback. Daniel Smales makes return to the top grade, joining Troy Fletcher on the bench, while Ben Donaldson will start as hooker after some impressive first-up games.
Well, I'm very pleased, and I just thought it was terrific reward for him to get a try.
Peter Shields bears the scars of a roller coaster season that nears the halfway mark as the team works towards consistency.
I don't think it's, the boys are panicking, but certainly the seriousness is there.
Shields and his back row partners will play an important role against an Eels team that's found some form, with Ron and Ryan naming another 3 on the interchange.
They never had a big win, but they never had a big loss. Their biggest loss is, I think, 10 points, so it's always a battle.
Jim Callanan, NBN News. Keen to show its contribution to local communities, Club New South Wales will use Club Week to raise money for various charities all over the state. In Newcastle, the Mater will benefit, with the rich Newcastle Guineas going a long way to raise money for the hospital. It's a win-win situation, with the Harness Club offering around $50,000 on the night in prize money for trainers and owners. Prestige, though, the real prize in the feature Guineas.
It's always good for the breeding purposes of 3-year-olds to run a very fast time, and track's on fire at the moment, so that makes it more attractive for the leading trainers to bring their horses to Newcastle for such a prestigious event.
To basketball, and after a season ruined by a leg injury, Ben Melmoth continues to make big strides towards Olympic selection. He was one of 24 named for the 3-day Boomers camp in May. That will then be cut to 19 before the final 12 are selected a month later. And while no Knights will be represented in the Anzac Test, Newcastle will still have a presence in the form of support staff. Brother and sister combination Simon and Danielle Atkin are the massage therapists for the Australian team.
When Neville Thrower takes his 39-foot cruiser out for the weekend, sewage from the onboard toilet goes into a holding tank. Without easy pump-out facilities, some boaties attempted to flush it out into the water. But today, a free pump-out station was commissioned at the Nelson Bay Public Wharf to transfer sewage directly into the town system.
Of course, here we've got a fragile environment, and we've also got primary production like oyster leases. It's important the water stay clean. And for tourism, it's important the water stays clean. Now, often boats will dump things out of the boats in little bits, but together it makes a major environmental problem.
The new pump is part of a $500,000 scheme funded by state and federal governments.
This facility is one of 3 that's already in the area. We've already got some up in Moral Lakes and Legs Camp. There's another 2 being planned.
The next step is to ensure boat owners use the pump stations, the reaction so far proving positive.
And this will be so convenient, being close to our berth here, and it'll be a good start for cleaning the inner harbour up, as well as our waterway system here.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
In 1995, Bob Carr won votes in Labor heartland by declaring he would make the Stockton Bight a national park. And it's a promise the Newcastle electorate hasn't forgotten.
The community's clearly stated its objections time and again about the future of Stockton Bight, and the community wants a national park.
But it seems the state government may have other ideas, today publishing a sand mining lease application for up to 1,000 hectares of coastal sand dunes. The 20-year lease application was lodged by Mineral Deposits Limited, the company in the midst of a development application to extend its existing operation. But the Wilderness Society says open-cut mining will have a devastating effect on an already fragile ecosystem.
It's irretrievable. This is the last sand dune system on the coast in New South Wales. It's the last representation of the species in the entire state. There is no going back after this.
Helen Kapalos, NBN News.
As one of Australia's leading wine-growing regions, it was only a matter of time before Cessnock had its own liquor accord. Launched today, the accord between Council, Police and the area's 220 licensees aims to stop underage drinking and the violence and antisocial behaviour that often comes with alcohol consumption.
The days of having mugs breathing down your neck and making a nuisance of themselves and swearing in front of your wife and your family and your friends, it's not on any longer.
Vineyard cellar doors make up the bulk of the Cessnock region's licences, but the accord also has the support of bottle shop owners, restaurants and hoteliers.
They're tailored to suit the area, very, very important in this high tourism area, not only in the wine country itself, but in Cessnock and its adjacent villages.
With the expected Olympic influx due to pour into Pakolban later this year, those behind the accord say it's vital best practice be set in stone now.
It's very important, particularly for tourism, so as we do have standards that the tourists can expect when they visit this area.
Blake Doyle, NBN News. Greta Smith, Loretta Parrington and Maria Edmonds all share one thing in common, a mission to beat their male counterparts this weekend. With a nickname like the Methanol Mum, Greta Smith is well on her way.
Well, I've racked up a couple of wins. I haven't been really consistent this year. I put that down to the fact that we've just put a new car on the track and I've had a fair few mechanical problems.
All experienced street stock campaigners, the trio know they'll be given a hard time on Saturday.
They certainly do. They don't let you past unless you can get past, and yeah, they don't like it very much when you win. But no, they're pretty good sports too. And
2 horsepower of a different kind and the mighty Mini Trotters were on track in Maitland today preparing for the state championships. 78 competitors from as far as Victoria will harness up, some faster than others. Racing happens on Saturday and Sunday at the Maitland Showground.
Coach Lee Sterry has never been one to deny young players a chance. In fact, he's built a reputation on developing talented teenagers. With defender Todd McManus outed for a week, he took little time to decide on Josh Ferguson as his replacement for his first run-on game for the top side.
He's a down-outright stopper. He knows the defensive game inside and out. You know, he's got some good senior people around him. He's got Pricey on one side and Moore on the other. And Moore is an easy player to play with. He never stops talking. So I think the kid will do the job.
It's not the only change. Chris Tanchevsky comes back onto the bench for Vasco Trusevski, while perennial sub Greg Owens will start.
Greg's has shown glimpses in the past few weeks that he's coming back to form. He had a few personal problems to sort out over the last few weeks, and he's done that. And, you know, as I say, his last 2 or 3 games have been good from the bench.
From rising star to NSL legend, and Andy Harper will play his 300th match on Saturday.
He's first class for any club he plays for, and he deserves 300 games.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
The big old wooden hall, built around 1920, went up like a tinder box. Flames leapt into the air, signalling destruction for what has been an integral part of this 1,500-strong community. Dances, lessons, socials and markets had been held here for longer than most can remember. But from 9:30 last night, only memories remain.
It's been used for many services. You've got many people in the community who were married and had receptions. Youth group, Sunday school.
2 teams of firefighters couldn't save the building. It will be demolished as soon as the police investigation into the blaze is complete. Parish priest Glenn Pope says it's a great loss, but the town will recover.
And it's meant a lot to the people in that it stood here for their use, it stood here for their faith, it stood here for many things to sustain them through the years, and from this we hope to rebuild and go to a greater future.
The Knights Leagues Club at Adamstown is headquarters for Newcastle's NRL team. The board is elected there, but it hasn't formed a secure financial home.
We've started at Adamstown. It's a slow process at Adamstown. Perhaps after a merger or discussions with Phoenix, that could speed the process and make us stronger.
The Phoenix Club at Mayfield is ranked in the state's top 100 clubs. Now they're considering hanging a new sign out front.
We're looking to putting together a joint venture where both parties will gain at it. My board have given me permission and my chairman permission, John Linus, to go further and to discuss the future with the Knights.
It's only early stages, but the courtship holds promise.
But an association with someone like Phoenix with 25,000 members, that'd have to be a positive thing for the Knights. You can't run a football club depending on good weather and success at the gate. You have to have an off-field activity which bolsters the affairs of the football club.
A committee representing each party will continue negotiations, with both the Knights and the Phoenix Club agreeing they want to see a quick outcome one way or the other. David McElwain, NBN News.
Easter occurs this year in the year 2000, a special Jubilee year, in which we remember as Christians 2,000 years since the birth of Jesus Christ. It gives us an opportunity to stop and to take stock, to see how we've gone as Christians over the years. And I can't help but think, and this is the import of my Easter message this year, that we've failed to actively engage the reign of God as we should. Often we've been satisfied to be involved a little, perhaps hang around the edges of Christianity without being fully committed to it. And Jesus Christ showed us at Easter time how he was fully committed to the point of suffering and dying on the cross and then rising to new life. He expects no less of his disciples. So I think our active engagement could go a long way to change the world. A very happy Easter to you all.
Scientists tell us that our life on this earth became possible through the death of a star. 5 billion years ago or thereabouts, a supernova exploded in our galaxy. We owe our existence to the violent death of that star. Our nation's character was forged by this truth, the sacrifice of the Anzacs. 2,000 years ago, a man, Jesus, was crucified. His violent death gives us life. His truth of dying to live, the cross, stands at the center of our universe. So what's in your stars this Easter? Dying to old ways of greed, hate, exploitation, division, living for reconciliation, nurture, simplicity, unity, new life? The stars whisper a truth we know deep in our hearts. God's love goes all the way for each of us. The cross gives new life. Death leads to resurrection. May the star of the risen Christ be with you, and have a happy and holy Easter.
Australia's #1 bowler Steve Glasson had his hands full against the highly rated Shane Garvey. Both were undefeated coming into the round 3 clash, with the Marylands bowler Garvey winning 31-28. It was a case of the master and the apprentice, with Australian rep Rex Johnston up against rising star Troy Somerville. The youngster came back from 19-13 down to win by just 3 shots. Sam Lagutsa used force against Jeff McGilvray, but it wasn't enough to win, while Kevin Trezise made it 3 wins from 3 starts against Bob Dalton to keep him well in contention as well. From bowls to basketball, and just down the road in Maitland, it was the first day of the country championships for 16 and 18-year-olds. The clash between Newcastle and Maitland and the 18s boys was the best of the day. Dale Hodges firing from long range to help Maitland into the lead, but Newcastle kept within reach with nice touches of its own. Chris Skilton used power to drive home for a basket, while Philip Brown had finesse to keep the scoreboard ticking over. In a thrilling finish, Newcastle got home by a point, 62-61, after being down by 6 inside the final minute. With the strong southerly blowing in, Newcastle West booted early goals to shoot to the lead against old rivals Newcastle City at Hawke and Hovel. But it was all City from there on. It booted 22 majors in a convincing win. The final score 22-10-142 to 10-6-66. Newcastle has started its country rugby union campaign well with a 42-0 win against Monaro, while a last-minute penalty goal by Julian Morton got them home by a point against Illawarra. They play ACT in the semi tomorrow. Meanwhile, it wasn't the best of nights for Country Rugby League in the curtain raiser before the Anzac Test. Firsts were beaten 38-0 by combined New South Wales First Division, while Leo Denver and Adam Hall scored tries in the seconds loss to the combined Metropolitan Cup side.